First things first, we need to clean our utensils. So I'm just using rubbing alcohol and a gentle cloth to clean off the pruning shears. Once they're clean, we can go cut. Cutting lettuce is really simple. You can cut and come again. Simply snip near the base, or you can cut a whole head at once. When you cut the head of the plant, if you leave enough space for it to grow back, then you get a whole second head a couple of weeks after the initial cut. Ultimately, you get 2 for 1 on one seed. Today we're cutting different types of romaine lettuce, perpetual spinach, which is an heirloom variety, and some farmer's market blend. Food for the worms makes vermicompost for the garden. Time to cut twine to tie the herbs for drying. Our herb garden currently has rosemary, 2 varieties of thyme, oregano, lavender, mint, marjoram, and lemongrass. We also have basil, sage, and dill companion planted with our tomatoes. Today we're going to dry thyme and oregano. First up is the German thyme. This is actually the first herb I planted about 2 years ago, and he's done wonderfully in this partly shaded section of our little garden. Thyme is great for baking, using as a part of a dry rub, or even as topping for roasted potatoes. Daniel built our drying rack last year when it was time to harvest our onions, and he added these great sidebars for hanging the herbs. The English thyme is next up on the docket. This guy is only about a year old, but you can see the contrast in the color between the 2 varieties. The leaves here are much more vibrant green. Air drying herbs this way does take a few weeks, and you want to be sure there's no rain in the forecast. Although if it is inevitable, we'll usually move the drying rack into the garage. There are other ways to dry herbs, including in your oven, but I find for us this is my favorite way to do it. This is the first time we'll be drying oregano. We actually planted this guy about a month ago from a starter we got at our local gardening store. I'm starting to get things ready for canning tomato sauce in the next few weeks. This onion was bolting, so we pulled it before it could reach maturity for quick use. If you see your onions are starting to flower, you should pull them and use them relatively quickly. Bolted onions don't store well, and their flavor diminishes the longer you wait to use it. If you notice that it's happening to the majority of your crop, that can be a sign that your plants are stressed, either too cold or too hot. We currently have 3 tomato plants, 2 recently planted and 1 from last year. The guy from last year has a bunch of fruit that's starting to ripen, so we're getting ready for our first batch of tomato sauce. More on canning in a future video. The tiny green bugs that sometimes show up on your plants are called aphids. They're harmless but extremely annoying to try and remove. We've had aphid infestations in the past, so I tend to be overly cautious when cleaning our fresh produce.
Now it's time to clean up
Put stuff away.
and edit the video with some help.